All right, when we were working on Chapter 4, talking about SOCs, shape, outlier, center, and spread, I mentioned that in Chapter 5, we would be talking about center and spread. So I'm going to show you two of those today. So median is a measure of center. It's going to tell us kind of where the middle of the data is. And median is always paired with a measure of spread called the Interquartile Range, or IQR for short. Spread because it's going to tell us how spread apart our data is. Now, just because we have it here and it's kind of a convenient time, we'll also talk about the range, which is a measure of spread. But in your brain, I really want you to put median and interquartile range together, because we always talk about those two together. I don't know, like peanut butter and jelly. So here's some definitions for you. Median is literally the middle, because it's the middle number. If you put your numbers in order from smallest to biggest, median is going to be right in the middle. Range, you might have seen before, it's going to be the biggest number, or the maximum, minus the minimum. Now, when you report range, you don't say, oh, well, our numbers go from 2 up to 20. You report the difference, so that's a subtraction in there. So 20 minus 2 would give you a range of 18. Again, I'll show you some examples. Interquartile range, we calculate by taking Q3 minus Q1. Q for quartile. I know you're thinking, Ms. Curtis, so what's a Q3 and what's a Q1? Well, Q3 is like the median of the top half of the data, and Q1 is like the median of the bottom half. So we call them quartiles because we're splitting the data into quarter sections. And I'll show you that. All right, a couple examples. We're going to do very, very small data sets to just understand the definitions, and then we'll look at some shortcuts. So these are some just examples of data, letters and names. This particular data set, these would be people in my family, how many letters in their name. So the first thing, let's just recap how to get the median. So I have 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6. So if I want the middle, notice they're in order from least to greatest. So I'm just going to find the middle. Well, I've got one on each side, one on each side. And then notice I have two numbers that are in the middle. So what I really want is the average, or what's between them. Well, certainly between 5 and 5, we would find the number 5. But just to be clear mathematically, we take the average of those two. So 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So our middle value there is 5. All right, I mentioned that we had the range. Now you'll notice our numbers go from 4 to 6. That is not a range. Range is the biggest number, 6, minus the smallest number, 4. So we get a single value, 2. It's just telling us how spread out they are. All right, and then for our IQR, I'll do this in red so it maybe stands out a little bit more. IQR. Notice we have here the middle, so I've divided my data into a top half and a bottom half. So up here, there are 3 values, 5, 6, 6. So I'm going to find the middle. That's Q3. On the bottom half here, you notice I have 4, 5, 5. I'm going to find the middle number. That's my Q1. So kind of can think of it that I'm splitting my data into 4 pieces. All right, so for my IQR, I'm going to take Q3. I'm going to minus Q1. 6 minus 5 is 1, so my IQR is 1. All right, let's look at it one more time, but this time I've put in some numbers that are just a little bit bigger. Instead of a 6, I put in a 27, just so we can see what happens. So for the median, again, I'm going to find that middle value. So 1 from each side until I find the middle. It's right here between the 5. So our middle value here is 5. On my range, I take the biggest number, 27. I subtract the smallest number, that's 4. And I get a range of 23. Notice again, it's a single number. We're a lot more spread out now according to the range because we have this number that's much, much further away, 27. All right, and for my IQR, I take the top half and I find the middle. That's my Q3. I take the bottom half and I find the middle. That's my Q1. So it's 6 minus 5 gives me an interquartile range of 1. I find it very interesting that our median is the same, even though I added the 27. My IQR is the same, even though I added that 27. So it's the range that's kind of telling us a different story, because that 27 is so far away. All right, so that's kind of some basic definition. Now, here we have a much bigger data set. And I'm so mean, rotten, and horrible, I didn't even put these numbers in order. So this is some data I gathered from a class of mine about the number of text messages that my students believe they send in one day. Now, if I was going to do this using just the definitions we just practiced, I would need to put these numbers in order. I need to find the middle, and it's just going to be a lot of work. So I'm going to take a shortcut. My shortcut is that I find these numbers on my calculator. So we're going to do that right now. All right, so if we take a look at our calculator, just to refresh your memory, if we go to Stat and Enter, we can put our data into a list. So you'll see here that I've already put mine into a list. As a matter of fact, mine is in list 4 here. You can put yours in any list you like. So hopefully, if you're following along, you pause the video now and go ahead and put in that data. So once my data is all the way put in, you'll notice my list has 21 entries. So highlighting the last number, you see 21. Here, 21 entries right here, 21. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask my calculator to do the things that we just did. So I'm going to push Stat and calculate what are called the one-bar stats. That's one variable statistic. One variable, we're just talking about one variable here. We have the number of text messages, and it's going to give us the statistics, basic stats that we want to know, numerical summaries. So I'll push Enter. And now my calculator will be really confused if I don't tell it which set of data I use. I put mine in L4, so I'm going to push second and the 4 button to get L4 to show up. Now if I push Enter, I'm going to get a big list of statistics. Let's focus first on the ones that we've been learning about today. So notice there's a down arrow, so it says there's more. So I'm going to go ahead and push down until I've got everything on the screen. All right, so what we have here is the minimum. That's the smallest number in the data set. There's Q1. Wow, we didn't even have to calculate it. It's just right there. Med, that's the median. Med short for median. There's Q3 that we didn't even have to bother calculating. And the max for the biggest number. So if I wanted to find the median, I just write it down. I'm going to come just right here on the screen. The median is 150. I just copy it from my calculator. And if I want the range, I remember that that is the biggest number, or the max, minus the smallest number, the min. So I have a range here of 800. And my IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So I have an IQR of 350. So please don't be afraid to use your calculator. Yes, you need to know the definition, but most important in AP is to understand what it means, what it tells us. Anybody can crunch numbers. In my introductory class, they crunch these numbers all day. But what you need to focus on is a little bit more advanced thinking and communication. So please use your calculator. Don't be afraid to just type in all the data and get your answers.